Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to cover the remaining part of Hindu analysis that we missed in this week, 12th June and 15th June in one same lecture itself. Let's see which are the important articles from these 2 days the Hindu newspaper. So first of all, we'll try to find out the relevance of these articles to our examination syllabus. Then we'll go in details one by one. Yes, economic importance of West Asia for India. Now this article on 12th June is very important. We know that several countries, Gulf countries from or West Asian countries, they had we can say registered their protest due to some comments by the political leaders in India against the Prophet Muhammad. So yes, we should know that the countries in West Asia are very important for India in terms of economic relations. Okay, so not only in terms of trade but also in terms of remittances and all other aspects, we should find out some good facts are mentioned here. So GS2 paper IR section as well as GS3 paper economy part. Then India-Russia deal on radio equipment. So what is this particular deal? We will cover this from GS2 paper IR section. China threatens Indo-Pacific security. Yes, this particular comment by US officials in a particular we can say conference. We will try to find out the details of this statement. GS2 paper IR section. So all these articles from 12th June. Now from 15th June, from men's perspective, new plan to save jumbos from train hits. So new measures will be undertaken here due to the, let's say, collision of train with the elephants and they are dying. So that what are the already existing measures taken by the government, they are mentioned in this article. So the conservation, it is part of main syllabus, and that's why we can expect the question in GS3 paper regarding conservation of different species. Then unemployment has decreased, says the latest labor force survey. So yes, from data and fact perspective, GS3 paper, there can be use of this data in GS3 paper economy part as well as essay paper. Latest government data regarding unemployment. Elderly lack financial social security, says one survey by HelpAge India. Yes, so this particular findings are important in GS1 paper society part. The problems faced or issues faced by the old age people, it is part of society syllabus, GS1 paper as well as GS2 paper social justice part. So the findings of this survey, we can use them in our answers. Now for prelims examination, 12th June newspaper, there is one news talking about micrometeorites has been, let's say the collision of micrometeorites with this particular telescope happened, so that's why it was in news. James Webb Space Telescope. So basics of this telescope will cover here, science and technology part. Then Severodonetsk, this particular city in Donbass region. So on this there is one article. So we will cover this particular let's say from mapping perspective as well as IR section. Then prevention of misleading advertisement and necessary due diligence for endorsement of advertisement. These are the new guidelines by Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Okay, so we will cover this from the governance aspect. So what are these guidelines? Under these guidelines, what let's say measures are to be undertaken by those let's say brand ambassadors and all those personalities. Center clears Agnipath Scheme. So 15th June, on that day our defense minister announced this Agnipath Scheme. Details of this scheme will cover from prelims government schemes perspective. Wholesale price index inflation quickens to record 15.9%. So every month we have follow up on how the inflation is working out, both retail and wholesale price, CPI and WPI inflation. Okay, so let us go in details about these articles. First one, why economic stakes are high in West Asia. Yes, so the context, you should know that the recent protest by these countries against India due to some comments on a religious aspect. So that's why it is in news. But yes, we should have good relations with these West Asian countries because the factors here is economic importance. Now what prompted the government response? So government responded quickly, and at the diplomatic level reach out was there by the government that appropriate actions are being taken, those who are spreading the hatred or hate speeches. Okay, so yes, what prompted this? First we should know that we are having some cultural, historical links to these countries. Gulf has been always linked to India, especially the western coast of India. So there has been trade with Gulf, those living on the western coast, especially Malabar coast, since ancient times itself. And the arrival of Islam and all these developments that happened during medieval time period. So historical links are there, and trade has been important aspect of these links. Trade links, and that continued during the modern times also. Second thing we should understand is why it is having some economic importance, especially because of crude oil trade. Okay, so discovery of oil during the 20th century, there onwards the trade got skewed here and the imbalance started. We started importing oil, crude oil from these countries, and because of that what happened is we became some kind of dependent on these countries. Third thing we should know, so many people they go for work in Gulf countries and they send back remittances to India, and they form very important part of forex, foreign exchange reserve. Okay, at the same time it is part of their savings. So this strengthens rupee. This is very important for our economy. So that's why these are the, let's say, aspect that government had strong response immediately. Now why is India so dependent on West Asian countries for its energy needs? Yes, so we should know that there is declining domestic oil production, and we have growing energy needs as we are developing country. So to ensure energy security, what we are focusing on imports. So more than 80% of oil is imported into India, and out of this 60% is from Gulf countries. So that's why we are more dependent on these countries in terms of, we can say, oil. So we are growing countries or developing countries, emerging economy, and the energy needs are very high. To satisfy them, we are dependent on these West Asian countries. Now, how reliant is India on the region for non-oil trade? तो non-oil trade में क्या है? पहला तो है economic trade. ठीक है, economic trade, we should know that there are exports and imports of other articles, especially exports from India. Okay, so Gulf country hai, it is desert country, so of course they will be importing food and food, let's say raw material and finished products. So food is there, spices has been always, let's say, part of exports, India's exports. Now recently we can say manufactured goods like electrical appliances. So these are the India's exports to these countries, and the imports largely contribute to, okay, we can say oil imports. Now second aspect is related to remittances. Some facts you should know about remittances. So how many Indians are there working? Around, we can say 90 lakh Indian work in West Asian or Gulf countries, and they are sending these remittances in terms of, we can say, around $40 billion per year. $40 billion per year. So this is how they are helping Indian economy by sending these remittances. So the non-oil trade, इसमें हम बात करेंगे. Okay, in this trade aspect, what are the initiatives that are taken recently by government of India? India has recently signed India UAE SEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and we want to expand this to other Gulf countries also. So India GCC, we want to have this SEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. What else is at the stake? So yes, else में आप यहाँ पे remittances लिख सकते हैं. And yes, we are having historical ties, so we do not want to upset these countries. So all these aspects you should be knowing when India Gulf countries or India West Asia, we have look west policy towards these countries. Also we should understand that the Chinese investment in these countries is growing day by day, and because of that we should be also focusing on this region so that our interests are not hampered. Then India-Russia deal on radio equipment. So what is this particular deal about? Radio Technical Systems of Russia has signed large-scale contract with Airports Authority of India for supply of radio equipment. So the agreement is or contract is with Airport Authority of India. The Russian company will manufacture 34 sets of instrument landing system. Okay, so instrument landing system 734 for the modernization of 24 airports in India. This is what we can say the contract is all about. According to the contract, first part of landing system ILS 734 must be shipped before November this year. Payments within the transaction will be carried out in national currencies. Yes, of course, Russia would like that because already there are sanctions on its currency in international market. Okay, so GS2 paper IR section, India-Russia. China threatens Indo-Pacific security. So Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore happened, and there the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin stressed American support for Taiwan, suggesting at Asia's premier defense forum that recent Chinese military activities around the self-governing island threatens change the status quo. Now you should know some background here how China-Taiwan relations have evolved. Taiwan and China split during the Civil War in 1949. But China claims the island as its own territory and has not ruled out using military force to take it. China has stepped up its military provocations against the democratic Taiwan in recent years, aimed at intimidating it into accepting Beijing's demands to unify with the communist mainland. ये background आपको पता होना चाहिए. Then yes, although the US Secretary of Defense has given this statement, but it has also said that US remains committed to one China policy which recognizes Beijing but allows informal relations and defense ties with Taipei, that is Taiwan's capital. Okay, so in this manner IR section से आपको ये चीज़ें पता होनी चाहिए. Then new plan to save jumbos from train hits, environment and ecology mains perspective. So there are several instances of, we can say, the elephants dying from train hits. यहाँ पे कुछ facts mention किए हैं. In last 10 years 186 elephants officially reported to be have killed in collisions with trains. The latest initiative is to analyze the geographical patterns and purpose measures that railways can feasibly implement to avoid such collision. Now uniqueness you should know here that an elephant is the only mammal with 6 toes, one of which is exclusively for gripping slopes. Due to this, they take more time to descend slopes, and when tracks are located at such locations, they tend to result in accidents. Then creating underpass or dedicated elephant passes near existing lines are not always feasible for railways given the expenses. What are the present steps taken by the government to reduce such collisions? You should know about this also. The government has put in place some measures such as providing fencing at selected locations, erecting signage boards to warn locomotive pilots about identify elephant corridors, sensitizing train crew and station masters on regular basis, clearing vegetation on the sides of track within the railway land, deputing a forest department staffer in railway control offices to liaison with railways and have the forest department engage elephant trackers for timely action by alerting station masters and locomotive pilots. This basically, there should be some synergy between the officials of railway department and forest department so as to reduce such kind of instances. One more thing we should understand, that elephants are very social animals. They live in groups and the mother and child bond is very strong. Now when the child is stuck on the track, the mother is not ready to leave that child from that track. And because of that, generally the collision happens, like you can see here, the child and mother has died in this collision. Such kind of instances are leading to increase in number of deaths here. Fine. Unemployment has decreased, says latest labor force survey. Okay, so this is government given data. We should write this in our answers. Yes, unemployment rate saw decrease of 0.6% and fell to 4.2% in 2020-21 compared to 4.8% in previous year, according to periodic labor force survey for 2020-21 released by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So this periodic labor force survey is released by Ministry of Statistics. Rural areas recorded an unemployment rate of 3.3%, urban 6.7%. So average is 4.2%. Okay, now some basic terminologies you should be knowing for prelims examination. What is that? The labor force participation rate is percentage of persons in the labor force, that is working or seeking work or available for work, in the overall population. This was 41.6% during 2020-21 and in previous year it was 40.1. Now what is worker population ratio, WPR? It is defined as the percentage of employed persons in the population, that is worker population ratio. This terminology can be asked in prelims examination. Fine. So you should use this data in your answers. Now and more data survey, this is very important from society perspective and social justice. Use this data in your answers. Yes, the data here or survey is carried out by the Helpage India. National survey carried out by Helpage India, this is non-profit organization, has shown that 47% of elderly people are economically dependent on their families for income. 34% relied on pensions and cash transfers, while 40% of let's say surveyed people have expressed desire to work as long as possible. This highlights the need of providing social security to them, and pension is becoming insufficient, so it also highlights needs for saving for your old age among the youth people. So yes, the report said 52% of elderly surveyed reported inadequate income. 40% said they did not feel financially secure. And 45% said pension amount was not enough for survival. The survey also found 71% of senior citizens were not working, while 36% were willing to work. One good news is that 87% elder reported there is availability of healthcare facilities nearby. However, the significant 67% elderly reported they do not have any health insurance at this critical stage, and only 13% are covered under government insurance schemes. This is also problematic. Health insurance coverage is very less. In terms of elderly abuse, 59% of elders felt that elder abuse was prevalent in the society, but 10% only reported, let's say, by themselves, being the victim by themselves. Okay, so this complete data is relevant in GS1 and GS2 paper. Excuse me. James Webb Space Telescope, it is in news. Why? Yes, you can see here it has been hit by micrometeorite. That's why it was in news. Right. Let us find out the details, basic information about this telescope. It is the project that marked 20 plus years of continuous collaboration between many teams. The telescope is the result of international collaboration between NASA, European Space Agency and Canadian Space Agency. You should remember these three. Telescope, it is imagined as coming together of many cutting edge technologies. Telescope will give us new knowledge about origins of universe. Let us understand that, because it is essentially an infrared spectrum telescope as compared to Hubble, which work largely in UV and visible range. It will allow us to stare into the beginnings of cosmic dawns. So और ज़्यादा हमें डिटेल में इंफॉर्मेशन मिलेगी इससे. The project seeks to understand how galaxies form and evolve. Along with that, additional information, the execution of the project was a stellar product of collective endeavor among different space agencies, we can say. Then the new collective comprising free scientists and engineers collaborated with a single purpose of producing, launching and placing at the chosen Lagrange point. Now this can be asked in prelims examination. Lagrange point, a point where the Earth's and Sun's gravitational forces are balanced. Lagrange point. So this can be asked in the prelims examination. So Lagrange point, sometimes seen in news or related to space sector, or we can say geography, it is related to or is which of the following. तो ये आपको पूछा जा सकता है. A telescope that was lighter than Hubble but had mirror 6 times larger. Hubble से ये lighter है और 6 times larger mirror भी है. Compared to Hubble's location 550 km from the Earth, this new telescope is located 1.5 million km away. So further it will help us to get more additional information. Fine, so this much information is sufficient about James Webb Space Telescope. Now, Severodonetsk, battle for the Donbass. Let us understand the location of this particular city here. This is the Donetsk region, this is the Luhansk region. Okay, so Severodonetsk, this particular city and the sister city is Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. So the fighting is going on between Ukraine and Russian, we can say, forces there for this particular Severodonetsk city. A city with pre-war population of over 1,20,000 has been focal point in this particular conflict. After pro-Russia separatists in Ukraine's east took up the arm in 2012, Ukraine briefly lost control of this city. Now, Severodonetsk and its sister city Lysychansk, which are divided by Donetsk river. एक बैंक पे एक सिटी है, दूसरे बैंक पे दूसरी सिटी है. Modern city of Severodonetsk was founded in 1930s after Soviets built the Lysychansk nitrogen fertilizer plant across the river. Now, if Russia captures Severodonetsk, they can move towards Lysychansk and then further towards the territories in Donetsk that are still defended by Ukrainian force. तो ये जो अंदर का रीजन जो है ना डोनेस्क का, तो वो कैप्चर कर सकते हैं रशिया अगर ये सिटी ले सकते हैं तो. So that's why it is in news. Location mapping part, of course, yes, we can cover mapping part also. You should remember the names of cities. UPSC may ask now next year in prelims about this. Mariupol is coastal city. Kherson and Odessa, other important, we can say, coastal cities, and Mykolaiv is also there. So Black Sea and Sea of Azov. So here there is Kerch state that connects Sea of Azov with Black Sea. This is Crimean Peninsula, and Crimean Peninsula was annexed in 2014 by Russia. Now the new territory acquired by Russian forces of Ukraine is this one. Now for Ukraine only this part connecting the Black Sea is remaining. So if that is captured, then it complete sea let's say link will be cut off here. Prevention of misleading advertisement and necessary due diligence for endorsement of advertisement. So let's find out what are these new guidelines by the Consumer Affairs Ministry. It will come into effect on 10th June 2020. They have been issued to prevent misleading advertisement. Now here the endorsement must reflect the honest opinions, belief or experience of the endorser, that is brand ambassador or those who are doing that advertisement. Okay, endorsers have to make material connection disclosures, and failing to do so will attract penalty under the Consumer Protection Act. The material disclosure means any relationship that materially affects the weight or credibility of any endorsement which a reasonable consumer would not expect. So that is called as material disclosure. Violation of these guidelines will attract penalty of rupees 10 lakh for the first offence and rupees 50 lakh for the subsequent offence under Consumer Protection Act. तो ये जो एडवर्टाइजर्स होते हैं ना, जो एंडोर्सर, जो ब्रांड एम्बेसडर जो होते हैं, जो बहुत सारे सेलिब्रिटीज़ होते हैं, एक्टर्स होते हैं, स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन होते हैं, राइट. सो फॉर देम दीज आर द गाइडलाइंस. ओके. Center clears Agnipath scheme. Now this is again important development. Defense Ministry has cleared this, announced this new scheme, Agnipath scheme. Details of this scheme you should cover for prelims examination. This Agnipath scheme for recruitment of youth in the armed forces for 4 years. All 3 arms of the armed forces, Army, Navy and Air Force. The process recruitment will commence in next 90 days. Planned to intake 46,000 young men and women this year itself. This will be the only form of recruitment for soldiers into 3 defense services from now onwards. Then the scheme was aimed at strengthening national security and for providing opportunity for youth to serve the armed forces. Recruits under the schemes will be called as Agniveers. After completing 4 years of service, they can apply for regular employment in the armed forces. So 25% of these will be recruited back for the permanent employment, and they will receive the pension benefits also. They may be given priority over the other various jobs in the government departments. Like for example, let's say different PSUs are there, or even the CAPFs, the preference will be given here onwards. Then MOVE is expected to decrease the average age of the armed forces from the present 32 years to 24 to 26 years over the period of time. Now enrollment to all services will be through centralized online system with special rallies and campus interviews at recognized technical institutions like ITIs and the National Skill Qualification Framework. The recruitment will be carried out on all India, all class basis with eligibility ranging from 17.5 years to 21 years of age. Okay, Agniveers will receive the annual package of 4.76 lakhs first year, and that will increase to 6.92 lakh in the 4th year, along with other risk and hardship allowances. Under the Seva Nidhi package, they will receive about 11.71 lakh, including contribution and interest on completion of service. This will be tax-free amount. The recruits will have to contribute 30% of their monthly salary to this Seva Nidhi, and equal amount will be also contributed by the government. Then no entitlement to gratuity or pension benefits under the scheme. So basically it will reduce the pension burden of the government pension bill. However, Agniveers will be provided non-contributory life insurance of 48 lakh during their service. So this is how the details of this scheme you should know about this. Fine. Okay. Now WPI inflation quickens to record 15.9%. So you should know the trend you should know, not the exact facts. Inflation 15.9%, April में था 15.1%. This is the 14th month in a row that WPI inflation has stayed above 10 marks. This trend you should know. And last year May it was 13.1%. So it is higher than the last year same month. Fuel and power inflation accelerated further. So this part we should know that more contribution is there. And recently we covered CPI inflation also. It has eased slightly to 7.04% from the earlier 7.79%. Okay, so these are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper, we can say. And yes, from time to time we will cover the regular news on that day only. Certain times what happens due to emergency we are not able to cover this, so we can yes, fine, thank you.
Ethics with S. Ansari remains the best ever choice. Do you know that ethics paper is the only paper in general studies that pays more with less efforts? One can easily secure 130 to 140 marks. Lukmaan IAS is a well-established name since 2014 for ethics paper. We offer 3 types of courses: Ethics Foundation course, Ethics Case Studies, and Ethics Test Series. Since 2015, Lukmaan IAS students have maintained the records of securing the highest marks in this paper. So, why to wait? Contact us today for more information.